And of course, I'm talking about medical devices. You just got a lot of info on diagnostics. I did this presentation just for this afternoon, so fresh. All right. Question 1. Have you used a medical device? You know what? I don't even know.
Yes.
Have you used it? No, this is a question to all of you. Have you used a medical device?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that was a yes, like.
Yes.
All right. So sometimes I get quiet stares, and people that I talk to have never heard of medical devices, or they're thinking MRI machines, and like, I don't work in a hospital. I'm like, you've used a medical device at some point in your life. I'm sure you have. And I'm talking to college students, so this is funny. When I do it to high school students, I kind of take that out. Are you using or wearing one right now? Does anyone have an implant or using a med device right now? You have an implant? Yep. Okay. Some plates and screws. I see some glasses, contact lenses, use your hands. Fillings. If you have a tooth filling, you have a permanent medical implant, right? It is inside your body. It saves it forever until it falls out, and it's on mucosal membrane, which are more sensitive than the external skin. And so there's a lot of stuff around that. Other common ones are, I have the Dexcom, that's a continuous glucose monitor, an IUD, stitches. People have had stitches before. So what I want you guys to do is, this is the class activity kind of thing, keep you fresh. Come up with a list of as many devices as you can. And as you do that, see if you can come up with a definition that encompasses all the stuff that you've listed. Yeah, so the definition has to have something that makes it not a pharmaceutical. And the FDA has an extremely long definition, which is fun to read. So sometimes people have the other problem where they're like, a medical device is a medical device, right? Like a device that's for medicine. So the FDA says an instrument, apparatus, implement, shape, contrivance, implant, in vitro reagent, or some similar related article, including a component part or accessory. So it's like every word you can think of. It is recognized by the formulary. So if the FDA says it's a medical device, it's a medical device. It's intended in the use for diagnosis of disease or condition, or to cure, mitigate, or treat. And in man or animals, so veterinary stuff is also included, but we don't cover that here at KJ. And then intended, and this is where it really sort of separates itself out from drugs, is that it's intended to affect the structure or function of man or animal, but not through chemical action and not by being metabolized. Right? So drugs, you take that chemical in, and then that chemistry interacts with your body in a way that produces a result that you want. In this case, anything that is more mechanical. So there's things that are combined where they have medicine and on them, like a drug-eluting stent, but the key word there is the primary intended purpose. The purpose of a stent is not to deliver drugs. The purpose of a stent is to keep your vein open, or your artery open, and then the drug is there as an extra agent to make it perform better. So lots of different kinds of med devices. So, and then I pulled out those keywords that you had said. In vitro diagnostics, clearly we have a lot of people here at KGI who work on in vitro diagnostics, which is why you have a whole separate one, and we have a whole course on that as well. 3 units required for MDS, PPC, which is a large chunk of the people. Assistive technology, we're sort of aiming towards that a little bit with the new program, because it aligns really well with occupational therapy. So these are devices, and by occupation it means things that occupy your time, not your job. It means eating, hobbies, moving around. Drug delivery devices, Kiana's worked on those. Wearables are an interesting intersection between commercial products and devices. So somewhere between your Fitbit to your wearable ECG monitor, there's a gray line where the FDA will step in. And so Apple's new watch with the ECG monitor, and it diagnoses arrhythmias. That one is a device. Before that, just heart rate isn't a device, because they weren't saying they were treating or diagnosing anything. They were just telling you. But if they had said they could diagnose a condition off of it, then they would have had to call it a device.
What would a CPAP be? Would it be a wearable?
Yeah, I'd call that a wearable. Yeah, it's not the usual kind of wearables people are thinking about, but for sure it's something you have control to put on and off your body. I usually think of wearables more like things well, no, that's not, either something you wear a lot when you go out all the time, or disguised as ordinary jewelry, clothing, but no, the CPAP would count. Anything you carry with you. So like the CGM monitors are definitely wearables. And then artificial intelligence is very growing right now. There's a lot of uses for it to have computers diagnose images and things of that nature, to look through databases to see if there's an illness in a certain region and things of that sort. And then neurostimulation is all the devices that intersect your central nervous system to either create movement, to input data. We have at Casa Colina, they have a patient that is, so a Caltech professor and his group have been working on this brain implant. It's super crazy, future high tech. A brain implant for a former nurse who was in a car accident, so he has no control from neck down. And they put the implant, he goes to Casa Colina, they hook it up, and then he can control a computer with his thoughts. So it's not like eye twitching or anything, it's like completely through his brain activity, and he does Photoshop paintings for them. And they have them hung up in the hospital. And I'm like, that sounds like the future! Yeah. Okay. The items you guys came up with, did they end up in diagnostics, mitigation, treatments, or preventions? As a team. Look at it and the follow-up question is going to be, did anyone come up with a preventative device?
Oh.
Gloves in the hospital, preventative. Band-aids, preventative. The Band-aids aren't treating your wound, they're preventing infection. So that one is usually harder to come up with examples, and that's why I pointed it out. So in vitro diagnostics, you got a lot of, so I'm just going to click there. Next item, so these are broad categories that I cover in my 321 course. Actually now, myself and Kiana both teach the class. I usually teach it by myself. So patient monitoring is monitoring your vital signs. You guys know your vital signs. Heartbeat. Respiratory rate, blood pressure, temperature, and oxygen level. So that's added once. It didn't used to be considered, but we've now had pulse oximeters for 50-some years, and they're added in there.
So how is that different from like Fitbit?
How is it different from a Fitbit? So yeah, I can check my heart rate, gym class style, put my hands on my thing, look at a clock, 6 seconds, then they tell you to add a 0, and then this gym teacher writes down your heart rate, right? The difference is it is guaranteeing the accuracy of the numbers. So ignore this complicated system for a sec, but just even like a heart rate, right? They say for educational purposes or entertainment purposes only when you get a Fitbit. If a device is meant to be used in a clinical setting, they'll tell you what the range of values, like how effective it is, and they'll have done a clinical trial to prove that that device is capable of doing that measurement. Some devices rely on the physician to use them, so they only have to prove that they technically do what they do, but not that their diagnosis means anything, because the clinician is actually the diagnostic. It's messy. So there's all this stuff that you can use like quickly on the scene or of an accident or something. I don't know, I'm making up stories of accidents. But in a hospital setting like this patient monitoring system it has to, it tracks all that stuff, but it tracks a few different ways, in ways that are non-invasive and ways that people don't have to be in the room with them. So in this example here, this thing on her neck is actually a microphone that listens to the breathing. Sometimes people have trauma to their mouth, sometimes people have gas masks, and you're not going to watch a person's chest rise and fall. There's not a nurse sitting there like all the time. So if their vital signs go off, then it alerts the station, and they integrate all of these various systems together in ways that are business things that are complicated for me. Maybe they're competing for a very small volume in a hospital room. right? And if they, right, we know that a hospital takes for like $1,000 an evening just to sleep without any help. So they integrate all their different subsystems together and try and sell you on this like giant package. Did that answer anything? Cardiovascular. Cardiovascular usually splits up in two areas of stuff that for the electrical conductivity of the heart and stuff for the fluid flow, muscle action of the heart. So you have pacemaker, internal and external pacemakers, defibrillators. There's diagnostic stuff which I haven't even put on here. So this is a pacemaker, a little piece of metal. It's way smaller than a hockey puck. Bigger than a quarter, smaller than a hockey puck. It goes under the skin on your chest, and then the leads, or the wire, what looks like the two wires, go inside your heart chamber, and they, for a pacemaker, it flips every time you're supposed to have a heart beat, because your own heart isn't producing the signal regularly. The defibrillator is listening for the regular electrical signal, and then if you're having a fibrillation event, like a heart attack essentially, it has a higher energy shock that resets your heart. And I heard that hurts a lot. Heart valve, so this is a mechanical valve. This is the part that makes the fluid go in the right direction instead of backwards, right? If you just squeezed it, some would go back into your lungs and some would go into your body. So your valves keep track of which direction the blood flows. The original ones, Edwards Life Sciences, which was the Edwards Star valve, was the first one. It's something, it looked like a small ping pong ball in a metal cage, and then it would cut open your entire chest, stop your heart, put that thing in there, and close it all up. They still have mechanical ones like this, and originally these lasted longer than moving forward tissue ones. So tissue ones originally were from pig tissue or porcine tissue, but that tissue would degrade, and so then they moved to now bovine tissue. Those last just as long as the mechanical ones. These are stents for aneurysms, or grafts rather, sorry, for aneurysms. So if your vessel loosens and starts to expand, you don't want it to flow out and then internal bleeding, so that they can put that in there. This is a total artificial heart, so it's a track to a bypass, or the word. You can't have a total artificial heart forever. So it's a path to transplant. Thank you. See, you guys know what you're talking about. Path to transplant. There's only been 1,000 to 2,000 of these in all history implanted, and they're showing this heart. Your heart is actually about the size of yours, so this is already pretty big. And there's hoses and tubes and stuff like around the person as well. It's not a pleasant lifestyle in that country. Critical care, so all the equipment that supports surgeries and stuff. We've got tickers on the one on the right. Anesthesia. So this is a ventilator, a mechanical ventilator. So if you can't breathe on your own, like your diaphragm isn't working, it will push the air in. Also a very unpleasant experience. This one here in the middle, it has blood. It's pumping blood through a filter. Dialysis machine, yeah. So all the hubbub about the dialysis centers on the California ballots were about these dialysis machines and the dialysis centers. So the argument was, in one way, they're making too much money and they're gouging people, and on the other hand, they're like, if we can't make money, then there's going to be less centers and less treatment available. And then this last one is a heart-lung machine. So if you want to implant all those cardiac devices, you have to stop somebody's heart. If you're stopping their heart for any more than a couple of minutes, they will be brain dead, which is not good. So this will reroute the person's blood through the machine, re-add oxygen, and keep the temperature going and add the pressure in order for it to flow through the body while the heart is stopped. Prosthetics. So a lot of times people think prosthetics on the external ones, but there's all the hips and knees that a lot of people have, shoulder implants and so forth. We don't spend a lot of time on this. Neuromodulation is neat. So for Parkinson's disease, they can deep brain stimulation. They put electrodes in the person's brain, and it makes the tremors go away. And how it works is a big maybe. But they have ideas. In the middle is a picture of a cochlear implant, so you can now make people who have been born deaf hear. It bypasses the auditory hair cells and goes directly to stimulate the nerve. And then this isn't neuromodulation. This is just what do you think it is? It's clear. It's lens-like. It's not a contact, but it's for the eye.
It's not the lens.
It is the lens.
It's the actual lens.
It's the lens. So if you get cataracts, which many people, basically everybody at some age eventually gets cataracts, they do a very quick surgery now. My mom just had it done like 2 months ago. She was scared. I was like, Mom, I'm telling you, this stuff is cool. You'll see great. I've been told it's a very easy procedure. She didn't like it, but they take out your natural lens material, which has been clouded up. Just like leaving plastic outside, it gets cloudy if it's in UV too long. And then they put in a plastic lens, and then you can see again. There's other issues with not being able to focus. Sometimes they do one distance, one close. There's a lot of variations. But yeah, a huge portion of the older population has had this done. And then all the imaging stuff. So MRIs, CAT scans, SPECT scans, ultrasound are also included. So I'm doing like a semester in 30 minutes. I hope you can appreciate that I'm skipping steps here. So in the gray is what the FDA calls the critical path for medical devices, what they consider important. So you start with your basic research, you have some prototyping, and then the part that the FDA cares about is like, okay, you have some prototype with wires and things hanging out working. Now you need to do preclinical development, which means build a prototype that looks and behaves like the real thing. Go take it, do the trials, get it approved. So all of their talk is like FDA centric. The product development course I teach is around here, so getting ideas from a user need into something that's functional by the end of the semester. And again, my passion is in the technology part of it. While you need obviously safety, utility, business viability, for me the technological innovation is the interesting part. That could come out of new materials, new manufacturing methods, things out of consumer electronics, new knowledge, discoveries in the biology part of how to interface with those things. And then this is using various articles on what's the future of medical devices, and they list each one of these articles did their own survey of what people care about the future of their own med device company, and they've added, and this is a real Venn diagram. So all of them listed 3D printing, which is why we keep talking about 3D printing. It in itself is not a it's not a product, it's a method, but it's very useful. As you'll see, if you walk over to the other classroom, you'll see like all 20 students playing with printers right now. Robotics, I like gamification because that brings in my game club stuff. So to get people to do activities that they would otherwise find really boring, if you turn it into a game, they will do it. So there's a lot of like VR related therapy techniques. You know, if you think about all those phone clicker games where your job is to just sit there like this, people do that for hours. So something is intriguing about it. So if you can do that for the benefit of their health instead of to the detriment, then you're doing something worthwhile. All right, where are we on time? When am I supposed to stop? 3:30, 15 minutes, okay. So, start with user needs. You have to start with an actual need to help somebody before designing something. So, we're going to do an activity. In each of your teams, you pick a condition that you know something about. It could be mental health, it could be cardiovascular, it could be diabetes, whatever you want. Pick a perspective, that could be the patient, the parents, the doctor, the insurance company, and then describe a need. You don't need to like think of every problem this person encounters, but like one issue that is difficult in their life because of that condition. You have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'm cutting down to 10.
Well, I know heart. My mom has heart disease and diabetes, but I don't really know that much about that.
What's something aging related? Seems like there's a lot of devices.
It's already exists, something that's
You're not coming up with a device yet. You're just coming up with something that's not treated or helped yet. Just the condition and their need. Right? Or something might exist, but it doesn't really fix it enough. Right? But right now you need. So that's why I started with that.
No arthritis. Oh, great.
So we're saying early Alzheimer's where the person still has significant capabilities.
Condition.
I think it's sort of raw.
Condition, yeah.
User needs specific challenge the person faces as a result. Imagine drug adherence might be an issue. Drug adherence, you know, you can't. Well, I mean, but if you're 70, you're going to be on a bunch of drugs, right? And then, like, if I don't remember to take them because I'm suffering dementia or Alzheimer's.
I mean, I don't understand the difference between drugs and drugs. I think what they're saying. I don't know what kind of a device could. Only a kind of drug.
Yeah, because it's all the time. There's always the problem with those pill caps, yeah.
But what happens if you need something?
I don't know.
I just got reminded.
There's a lot of my arthritis.
Okay, for sake of time,
Lots of people.
what's one user need? Does anyone want to share a user need they came up with?
arthritis.
Arthritis, okay. So arthritis is the condition. Are you thinking about the patient or someone else?
I'm just thinking of my needs.
Of your needs, okay. So you're thinking about a patient. You understand the user very well. And then what's a problem that you encounter because of arthritis in your knees?
Going downstairs.
Downstairs, okay. And that's it. That's what I meant by coming up with user needs, right? So you want to, you could spend more time, you would spend more time actually, what about the stairs? Is it the bending? Is it like, how often does it occur? What environments are you in? Like, is it in your home? Is it somewhere else? But again, we're time. All right, so, and I assume each of you got, your tables had something. So now the brainstorming of an idea. So this is about thinking about what the future devices could be. In this case, I imagine some kind of assistive technology, but you can think about other things that can help you, phone apps, wearables, robotics, AI, whatever, to just kind of spur your imagination. It could be near future, far future. We don't have to build it, so dream big. Just as one example, a phone app. That seems like a weird application for that. Maybe it's a phone app that tells you what buildings don't have stairs and have elevators, and then you don't have to go down the stairs, right? So there's lots of ways to solve a problem. Go for it. 3 minutes.
I know.
3 minutes.
Yes, maybe like those smart caps with the phone.
Yes, oh, there's still. That sounds better.
Or if you don't remember
Better
to
than
charge
the
it.
cloud.
Or,
Or maybe, well, because it's your joints, right? And so maybe they can like insert something in your knees, like whatever that thing that
Is says you've already taken it.
And I'm noticing when I get out of the car.
And maybe you tie it to like a child's like cell phone as well, so
But now I'm starting.
they can call and remind them. Or
All right, who cured cancer?
Did he get an A?
all right, now we
I'll
can
give
retire.
one more example of something. I like to share my own brainstorming ideas. My mother-in-law had multiple myeloma. She was treated, and it's in remission, but she was for a long time at City of Hope because her immune system was essentially removed. She was in a confined room, which is you're both dealing with a disease, but you're also like separated from family and friends and stuff. I thought of a robot because I wanted the robotics answer. So like a robot that's like a telepresence. So you could put this robot in your house, and then she could drive around and say hello to people. And, I don't know, just an idea, but I didn't build it. Okay. Someone else's idea. Your table. No ideas? You have one? Okay.
Like a pill pack type of.
Yeah, you just have to have
And then figure out who's going to pay that person.
You have to experience.
Okay, so did you guys hear that one? So you said your little brother? Her little brother has Crohn's disease, and he's going to get a treatment every 8 weeks to treat the symptoms. So, but the symptoms aren't as regular as 8 weeks, and so some kind of diagnostic that you can wear that sort of early warning of the biomarkers that would get you to that treatment on time instead of too many or not enough treatments. So that's a more like real one than my robot. Safety and efficacy, it's highly regulated. So to ensure those things, so that's where the FDA comes in. I skipped all of these slides at lunchtime because the power in the laptop went out. So this is the part about the industry. So there's the engineering jobs, there's the biologist jobs, the clinical jobs, regulatory jobs, business jobs. There's jobs. This is life science in general, not just med devices. So this is from a industry report from 2017 about California. And then a little bit about the program that we're starting. So we have a handful of students in it for fall, and hopefully growing tremendously in the next. Yeah, I'm very animated. So it's a master's program for placing students into engineering roles in the device companies or other companies that are developing medical devices. So there's, and the idea is also to provide an experience where they get to meet patients, providers, and industry people. So one of the things that we're doing is there's a course where they'll be going to Pasadena Hospital and volunteering there 4 hours per week. And then for the classroom time, they come back and they do that user need thing that we did in 3 minutes. They have to do that every week in a class and write up a report and explain like something that they actually observed instead of, and we have our own experiences, but this would be. And then the industry stuff, KJ has covered quite a bit. Mad Lab. This is the initial dream drawing. The equipment is currently sitting in the 129 pharmacy classroom. They're using it, and promise in a month or two it's going to be in a new shiny building. I hear people have walked in it and started moving it, so it'll happen. And it has, so 3D printing, like we said, is an important tool. 3D printing, laser cutter, electronics bench, vacuum forming machine, and just like hand tools and things so that they can make their prototypes and experiment with designs. Different kinds of, this one is geared towards engineers, so mechanical, electrical, quality, manufacturing systems are all kind of technical jobs. But for those who are not technical, this would be more the MBS students that don't want to be an engineer at a company. There's the marketing, project management, business development, regulatory, everything else. That other stuff as well. And so there's the technical skills that people get asked for. So we had a company or an external consultant come up with lists of going through job descriptions and coming up with what things are asked for. So these are some of them. And then there's professional skills that we try and work on that were also listed. So communication, teamwork, collaboration, problem solving, and all that. And that's where all the teamwork and work comes from. Oh yeah, I have a few, yeah. Man, I'm really like zipping through them. I was like so worried because I only got to the other slides after an hour this afternoon, so I'm very proud of myself. Because then I'm talking really, really fast. So again, thinking of this as like the spectrum of getting a product from identifying what's actually needed out there to doing some prototypes and things, developing functional tools that will actually help people to being able to convert it into a business. So that's the design, transfer, and manufacturing. And so these are some key classes that we have in that program: human factors, clinical experience. That's the visiting the hospital. Then sort of on the product development area, CAD, prototyping, and manufacturing methods. Courses that we've had already: product development, diagnostics, devices. So we've sort of within the MBS, we've had a lot of focus right here. And so the parts that we're adding is kind of, well, this has existed, but we kind of pushed some of this out and added a little bit on this front. So business, operations, quality control, regulatory. Capstone, TMP, you guys know TMPs, yeah, we're not going to spend time there. That's it. So the team, okay. Just don't clap yet. That's a joke. The TMPs, the same format, right? Industry sponsored and all that. The idea is to bring back some of those technical TMPs. We've done a lot of regulatory and business themed ones, but now we have, and part of the reason why the technical ones tended to decline is we didn't have the students that had the desire or the skills to work on them, and now we will have that. So the idea is that they will have an engineering experience in the same format and then take that into